Hello everyone, I'm Penny Simkin, and today I'd like to talk with you about birth trauma, a rather dark subject but a very important one, and I think if we know a little more about it, we can reduce its severity. About 1 woman in 4 these days reports that her birth was traumatic, and that's a lot. And if you do the math, we do about 4 million births a year in the United States, and 1 in 4 would be 1 in 4 would be 1 million women a year reporting that their births were traumatic. So it's a big topic, and it's an important one, and we need to know more about it. Now, what is birth trauma, or what is traumatic birth? You can look at it either way, and it begins with the event itself, which was the birth. And it depends on how the woman herself perceives it. So if the woman believed that she was in danger, physically or emotionally, that her baby was endangered in some way, physically, and if she felt kind of out of control, helpless, abandoned or alone or disrespected, all of those things can cause a woman to be traumatized by the birth experience. Now, after the birth, some women go on and actually develop the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder, the same disorder that our veterans have come home from Afghanistan and Iraq with, PTSD. Others who had a traumatic birth do not have as severe symptoms. So let me just list some of the symptoms. You may have gone through this yourself, you may be in it yourself, you may know somebody who has had a really tough birth. So I think it's good to know what kinds of symptoms might be coming up. We talk about intrusion. She may have flashbacks at times or nightmares, finding herself dwelling on or thinking about the experience just out of the blue. She may have avoidance behavior. Some people don't want to talk about the birth because it just is so upsetting to them to be reminded. They may not want to go back to their doctor for their postpartum checkup. They may not want to get together with other friends who have babies. They may even avoid family if the family is not understanding of their feelings. Then some have they have a lot of blame. They feel they were mistreated. They feel a mistake was made. They feel that it should not have happened, and so blame or other negative feelings about other people involved are common feelings. And then we have hyperarousal, irritability, finding themselves getting angry quickly, some sleep disturbances, finding that even when the baby's asleep and the whole household is asleep, the woman can't sleep. She's ruminating, she's thinking about it. So if a person has a certain number of these symptoms and it goes on for at least a month, she's considered to have post-traumatic stress disorder. So now what do we do with this? Whether you have all those symptoms or just a few of them, it's serious. And it should not be neglected. And one of the biggest problems that people who have had a traumatic birth have is that when they try to talk about it to their partners or their family members or friends, they keep being told, well, look, you've got a healthy baby. What are you worrying about? Don't dwell on that. Forget about that part and focus on the positive. Think about the positive. Be grateful for what you have. And then she feels even more misunderstood or abandoned than ever, and she can't get it out of her mind. So this is what a traumatic birth can do to someone in the early mothering period, early parenting period. Some women are at greater risk than others. It may be that a person who has a traumatic birth, this won't be her first trauma. It might be that in her childhood she suffered traumatic events, sexual abuse, physical abuse, neglect. She may have been shamed at times. She may have been in a serious accident or been lost on a hike or something, or gone through a disaster like a hurricane. So previous trauma can kind of lower the threshold for future trauma. And if it doesn't get resolved, then she may be a candidate for PTSD. So this is why I think we need to understand it. But what can be done about it? Knowing the risk factors, knowing how it can play out, what can be done? Well, first of all, as a doula myself, I think I'm aware when a woman is going through a birth that is traumatizing to her. I know what she had wanted. I know what her hopes and expectations were, and I can see that they're not going in that direction, that she's upset by it. And at the moment, as a doula, I may be able to talk with her, to boil it down and say, this is a tough moment right now, and what we must do right now is this, and just focus her on the moment and getting through it. And I feel that that sometimes can prevent that traumatic birth from developing all the symptoms later down the road. And of course, not only a doula can do that, but a care provider could do that, a nurse, if they recognize that this has the makings for a traumatic birth. The partner could also do it, but sometimes the partner is caught up in the trauma, himself or herself. So first of all, if we can prevent it during the time, but then afterwards, taking these symptoms seriously, possibly having a talk with the care provider, and asking questions, what really happened? Why was this done? Why didn't you recognize it and stop it? Whatever. But also taking good care of oneself. You owe yourself enough sleep every day to get through the day. And sometimes people get up in the morning before they really have gotten enough sleep. It would be better to feed the baby and go back to bed, and keep doing that until she's gotten enough sleep. Sleep is a healer for trauma. Other things, exercise. Sometimes during the day, it would be so helpful if you could burn up some energy, not just internally, having it eat away at you, but get out, put the baby in the stroller and rush, walk briskly for several blocks and work some of that out. That also helps with sleep at night. Taking yoga, yoga exercises or other types of physical exercise can be helpful there. And sometimes body work. Sometimes with a good body worker can help a person process and get rid of emotions that are damaging emotions just through the body. We also, I would recommend counseling. Trauma therapists really know their stuff when it comes to trauma, and if you can find a trauma therapist who knows about birth, they can help you work through many of these issues very, very efficiently. So the treatments are possible, and the good news is that as people start to feel better, and you can expect to feel better, taking some of these measures. Your feelings toward the baby, at first you might be feeling kind of like a caretaker, not having enough to give the baby in terms of love, affection, and feeling that bond. But as you start to feel better, you'll begin to respond to your baby in a very different way. One woman who had had quite a traumatic birth told me, I remember the moment I fell in love with my baby. He was 2 months old. We were in the cookie aisle at Safeway. And all of a sudden, I felt this torrent of love for the baby. I burst into tears and grabbed him, and I felt differently. I'd been feeling like a babysitter until then. But you see, time and attention to your needs does result in healing and recovery. And so that's what we're after. And I want to just end with this term, post-traumatic growth. It's a rather new term because we've only been studying trauma for a few years, especially in relation to birth. But now we recognize that when one has recovered from that trauma, has resolved it, the good news is that that person is stronger than ever before. Stronger, more capable, more confident than ever before. So it isn't just a matter of getting over it. It's a matter of getting above it, resolving it, and triumphing over it. So it's definitely worth attending to this need, and with the great hope that you can move beyond it and you're going to be better for it. So thank you very much. And I do want to tell you about an organization called PATTCh, P-A-T-T-C-H. I'd like to invite you to visit PATTCh.org. PATTCh stands for Prevention and Treatment of Traumatic Childbirth. There are many articles and resources on that website and information about conferences and things of that nature. And you might want to visit there to learn a little bit more and be steered towards some very helpful resources. So thank you for watching today. And I'd like to invite you to contact me if you have any comments on this presentation or any others, or questions that you'd like me to address. And I'd love suggestions for topics for the future. If I'm capable, I'll try to address them. Thank you very much.